Jeff, had been a star of that show. He was nationally known. He'd been in Greece. He had this incredible track record, which, as he admitted himself in later years, he blew out the door through bad habits and bad behavior. And I was sitting in my office one day when about to go into casting for, we'll call it day players, guys who have like 1 or 2 lines in a show, and that's pretty much about it. Maybe have 2 days worth of work. And I saw Jeff's name on there. What the hell was he doing here for what's basically a line you would give to someone who had like 2 years of acting experience? And I went into the casting session with John Goldman and Doug Netter and the casting directors. And he was not at all resentful of his situation. He realized that he himself was responsible for his own problems. And said, I'm starting over. And there was equanimity, there was resilience, there was courage, there was frankness. And he came in knowing he was starting over again. And after he left, the casting director said, obviously he's had problems before, he hasn't worked in a long time. And the last thing he said on the way out the door was, give me a chance to do this, I'll make you proud. And I said, anytime a person says, give me a chance, they got my support. And we gave him those few lines. And he did a bang up job. And I said, bring him back again. And we lobbied, and I lobbied, and eventually we got him on that show as a series regular. And for the things that he'd been through and gone through, the courage he had to start over like that was extraordinary. And he would come into my office every few days, often with Pat, to drop vitamins off on my desk, because they were afraid that I was working myself into a coma, which pretty much I was. When it was like silver nitrate, not silver nitrate. Collodium? Is it collodium? All these. Yeah, whatever. Colloidal silver. It was all that stuff, and you would always talk. And he became the captain of the show with the characters, and never had a problem with him. He was gracious. He was wonderful. And toward the end of the show, I had a hunch something was not going right with him. And we all saw what happened later. But that wasn't Jeff. That was what the pain made Jeff. And it was a good guy coming to a bad end. But my memory of Jeff is the courage and the resilience and the optimism that he showed. And he was a good guy. And he did not deserve what happened to him. And we feel his loss every day. Rick Biggs. He loved you guys. I'm not sure you understand the degree to which he loved you guys. He would go to conventions. A lot of actors, when they go to conventions, they stay in their hotel room or somewhere safe. And only come down when they have a pad, and they go back and they sit around the room with the old red hookers. And the guys who do weirder things. But Rick, have anybody seen Rick at a convention? You know what he was like. He would come downstairs and he would party with the fans and dance on tables, and he and Jason would do acting workshops with you guys. And he embraced life at a degree to which I'll never get near. And what a lot of you don't know was that Rick was virtually deaf. He was almost entirely deaf in one ear and was deaf in the other ear. The way he worked was that he had to learn both his lines and the lines of the person he was in the scene with. Because often they'd be across the room or speaking very softly, he couldn't hear them. So he would read their lips to know when they were done. And to have the kind of courage, he never complained about it, never once. And when we first hired him, as a doctor, he said, it's my background as a black man, as an African American, going to be part of the storyline. And I said, no. At this point in our future, 200 years hence, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, your gender, your inclination, your sexual preference, none of these things matter. You're across the table with something with 3 heads and feathers. Our differences are nothing by comparison. And it will never come up, and never did. And he was particularly pleased with that. And we often spoke about how much that meant to him and how much the role meant to him. And we lost Rick Rick was the first to go. He was with Laurie, his wife, and he was taking a nap, and got up with Laurie and said, feeling well, I'll go back and lie down some more. And lied down and never got up again. There was a problem with his heart, congenital, he never knew about. And the light went out. And that was a hard one for all of us, because of all of us, he was what we were sure was going to last forever. Because he was strong, vital, energetic, powerful, loved to laugh, and particularly, I cannot reinforce this enough, loved you guys, you know. And I want you to know how much he cared about you guys. Andreas was quieter, kept to himself more. But the thing about Andreas, when he was very self-conscious of his appearance normally, but you put the Jakar prosthetics on him and that costume, and he felt sexy suddenly. And it worked. Whenever women came to the set, they would go right to Jakar every time. And it would just like purr under the makeup. And enjoy it. And he would stay in the makeup all day long, even when he had a chance to take off parts. But he would stay in costume, in makeup, sitting behind the stage smoking, unfortunately. And we always tried to take the scene to an area where none of us had thought. And I wrote the scene with him and Londo in the elevator, where they're going to, Charles will watch Londo die and die himself. It was written initially very seriously. Look, yeah, I don't have to do anything. I get to watch you die. I'll die in his life. And I was walking across the stage when I heard the bell go off. We were about to start rolling film, stop moving, and stop where I was. And I heard this laughter. What was that? I've never seen their shooting. That's not a funny scene. You know? That's why I'm reading the Bible and listen, there's a crack up line. No, it isn't, you know. And I heard the bell go off again, maybe they stopped shooting, and I came around to where the elevator set was, and I caught them like guilty children smoking behind the barn or something. we were just playing, Andreas, and we thought we'd try this way and see if it worked. We were going to shoot it your way too, with the double way that you had. We thought we'd do it the right way first. I said, show me. And they did it again, and it was all I could do not to just fall on the floor laughing. I said, keep it. He could always go one step further than you thought the scene would go and make it something extraordinary, which is why we always wanted to be on set when they were there. I was coming back from a convention, I forget which one now, and I got off the plane and I turned on my phone and there was a message waiting there from Walter. I called back Walter, and Walter said, have you heard about Andreas? No. He says, he's dying. I said, what? You know, Bill movie, well, Bill can say anything. You never know with Bill. You know. He said, no, call him. And I'm still in the cab and I call Andreas. I said, what the hell's going on? He says, he's laughing on the phone. I'm dying. Isn't that fucked up? I'm always 3 minutes, I'm having 5 minutes. I've never felt better in my life, I'm dying. What's up with that? And what had happened was there was a cancer that was hiding behind his sternum. And so it never showed up on the x-rays until it got large enough to peek out the other side. And suddenly it showed up. And there was nothing they could do. I would face that situation with abject terror. Andreas faced it with an equanimity and a grace and a courage that I am still in awe of to this day. If my time comes that I can face it with that kind of nobility and spirit and quietude, I will have done something worthwhile in my life. And toward the very end, he called for dinner, a Last Supper, with me and Peter Jurasik and Doug Nenner. And we went to his house and he loaded up on the bed so we could have a proper dinner. And we talked and laughed through the night. And at one point Andreas says, tell me all the dirt. Tell me all the shit that went down behind the scenes that we never knew about. Who am I going to tell? His exact words. So I said, sure. I told him all the stuff that no one knew. the big part of what I'm going to get to here in a moment. And he was very pleased by that. He found out all the secrets. And on the way out, he paused each one of us at the door on the way out and looked at us in the way of saying, I will never see your face again. I want to remember it. And held that for a moment. And hugged us, and we went on our way. And that was the last time I saw Andreas. We passed away not long afterward. But the courage of the man. If I were to write for 1 million years, nothing I could ever write could convey that as well as what I saw in his eyes that night. Then there's Michael, and the promises I have to keep. It's really hard. One of the last times I saw Michael O'Hare was in my office when we finished shooting the two-parter, War Without End. And we were talking about the circumstances that led to B5 and Michael going different ways. A secret we both had kept. And we were both very happy with how the two-parter had gone, and I said, I will keep this secret to my grave. And he laughed and thought about it for a second, and said, tell you what, make a deal with it. Keep it to my grave. Because I want the fans to know that some things happen to people, and there's no shame in it, that there's no stigma attached to it, that if the commander of a space station can have this happen to him, lead of a show, then it can happen to anyone. And that families need to know that they can talk about these things. And I said, well, that'll never be an issue. And to ask, my actual next words, to you and Rick are going to outlive all of us. And you know what happened afterward, to a degree. Here's what you wanted you to know. I'll put this in somewhat simple terms, not too much detail. During the latter part of season 1 on B5, we and Michael began to realize he was having physical issues that led to psychological issues. In terms of, with delusional behaviors, it's the kind of thing where you see messages to yourself in newspapers and magazines, or you hear voices, or you're sure you're being surveilled by the FBI, those kinds of things. And Michael was having issues, and he was aware of it, we were aware of it. And it's kind of going to be corrected, and that's what we wanted to talk to him about, and want, these are things that can be addressed through medication, through treatment. But we were in the middle of shooting, well, last third of shooting. And what do we do about this? And I thought about it really hard. And I could write them out for a couple of episodes, but I couldn't write them out long enough to get the kind of help he really needed. And I was prepared to shut down the show, to make sure he got the help he needed. And Michael came to my office and we talked about this. He said, don't do it. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Don't let me be the reason that these people lose their jobs and that this show falls. Let me try. Let me try and get by. And those 3 words, let me try, kind of like giving me a chance in my career. If I hear that, I have to back and play. Always have, always will. And he soldiered on under a burden that no one else knew about. And he got through that season like a man clinging to a cliff by his fingernails. And I could see him suffering. I could see him fighting every day to stay controlled, stay focused. And again, the raw, naked courage of the man to keep fighting. And we finished the season, and no one knew. And he knew he wasn't going to be able to come back for a second season. I knew it. He couldn't take the strain. And he needed to get the help he needed. So we agreed to part ways at that point. I said, I will bring you back to finish up your arc of your character. We will shoot a short scene now that I could drop in at some appropriate point in the story, saying you're going to come back, giving a message to Garibaldi. Don't worry about rent or food, don't worry, just take care of you. And he spent the next X number of months. His family came to the fore, his friends came to the fore. My wife at the time, Catherine Trinnan, was a huge help to him. Sandra Bruckner, who later on ran the B5 fan club, is aware of this, was a huge help. And they were working through various meds with him to get him on target. And gradually it began to work. It began to take root. It was a hard process. And we went to the first convention we had to do after that was, I think it was Icon in Long Island. Pretty sure it was Icon. And Michael was there. I made a point to be there for Michael. And I remember seeing him right before he went in. And he was pale from the medication, and his hands trembled. But he was determined to go on. And what was amazing was when I saw him walk into a room with you, with the fans, the color came back to his cheeks, the confidence came back. You, the group, sustained him and empowered him and brought him to life in ways no medication ever could. Funny small story. On the way back from the convention, we were driving down the freeway. In the van was myself, Catherine, Michael. And we heard this sound like a motorcycle roar, the obnoxious kind of motorcycle roar kind of thing. And I looked to the left, I don't see a motorcycle. I looked to the right, I don't see a motorcycle. I look behind us, nothing. And then I look forward, and I see 2 airplane wheels coming down in front of the windshield. This is a really bad sign. And the driver puts the brakes on, and this plane that was doing an emergency landing shoots right past us and lands on the freeway. It was a small private plane. And it was like 6 inches from taking out the car. And maybe that was why Michael was taking in terms of that he did, because when we convened to do the 2-parter, and he was, again, strong, and he was there, and he was prepared, and got through it, and we were talking again about the whole situation, and that's when he said what he said. And in the years that followed, he tried to get his career going. There were some good days, some bad days, some on med, some off med, and it took a toll. But his family was there for him, his friends were there for him, and finally he left us a little while ago, and did that story. But I wanted you to know, from what he's always said to me and what I've seen in my own eyes, how much he loved you guys, and how much you mattered to him, and how much you sustained him. I'm not sure he would have made it as far as he did if not for you. Because in the interim, he could do a couple of conventions. He always came back revived and better and stronger because of you. And my hope is that the people who are on this program are still with us 1,000 years from now. I don't know if that will be the case. So as you move amongst them, as well as celebrating what has been done and what is being done, take a moment and look at them as Andreas looked at us. Be generous with your kindness, with your words, with your affection. Remember the moment. And when you go home, take that with you. And look at your friends and your family as Andreas looked at us. Hold those moments. Because flesh is fickle. Flesh goes in a second. But love persists. And that love Michael had for you, and you had for Michael, persists. And Andreas had for you, and Rick, and Jeff, and all of us. And we thank you for that. That's all I wanted to say.